right. Well, that brings us to the final, let's say chapter, and that's NFTs on Cardano. As I said at the beginning, NFTs have this perception broadly about, a piece of art where you can, transfer ownership, but it has a much wider utility than that as well. And you have a great technical background to also think about NFTs from a technical perspective. So, what are non-fungible tokens, NFTs, to you? What purpose do they bring to mind for you?
Yeah, so this is something we thought about a lot, of course, when we were designing the multi-asset functionality for Cardano. And so first of all, I mean, the terminology, fungible tokens, non-fungible tokens. So is fungible better because non-fungible can't do fungible, right?
Yeah.
So fungible token just means like if you have two of them, it doesn't matter which one you use. If you've got 10 ADA, I've got 10 ADA, well, they're the same. There's really no difference, right?
Yeah.
So that's what we mean by fungible. But it's also a relative term in the sense of like, if you've got some Bitcoin, I've got some ADA, well, it's not the same token, but we can exchange it for each other. Then is it fungible in some sense or no? Now it gets more difficult, right? So, and that's what we noticed when we were thinking about this. We were thinking, okay, so we've got these inputs and outputs, right? And so an output carries some ADA. That's where we were. And then we thought, okay, how about carrying, I mentioned before, for extended UTXO, we carry channel data. But we want to carry more tokens. So that's multi-asset, means we can have multiple tokens on one output. And then initially, the idea was, okay, maybe we have ADA, we have wrapped Bitcoin, we have your token and my token, and okay. But then how can we make this fungible, non-fungible difference? Well, non-fungible token is one which you can't, there are no two, let's say, right? So basically it means it's a token which is unique. There's only one. But now if we have these two extremes, if we have fungible tokens, so lots of millions of ADA, and they're all exchangeable for each other. And then there are some non-fungible tokens which are unique. There's fungible token A, fungible token B, and you can't exchange them. I mean, why not also have some little bit fungible tokens? I mean, there could be tokens of which there are only two, right? There's exactly one. There are only two, right? That's less fungible than ADA, but more fungible than Van Gogh.
You said it well.
That's the two extremes. So we can have things in the middle. And then we actually thought there are actually applications for that too. Think about a multiplayer game, something like Team Fortress or Fortnite or whatever. And the very standard multiplayer online games these days, game is for free, and then there are other perks you pay for, right? Like, for example, hats, right? You can buy hats or your costume or the weapons you carry, whatever, some in-game artifacts. And usually they are rare, but they are mostly not unique. There could be unique ones, like really non-fungible in-game artifact, but often like a particular hat you get if you do a particular challenge in the game. And then, well, how many people solve the challenge? That's how many there are. So they're quite rare, but there's still a few of them.
Right, sure.
But all of them, like maybe they're green hats and blue hats and red hats. So, of course, these items are more interesting in their variation. But the point is, there's Fortnite in-game merchandise, and it's rare, but there's a spectrum of those. So we thought maybe we can design something which is better than just fungible and non-fungible. Maybe we can design something which also captures this in-between spectrum. And that's where the idea of what we call the token bundle comes from. And this is what in Cardano these days lives in outputs is a token bundle. And the token bundle is a collection of tokens. And for each token, there can be 1, 2, 3, 4, how many ever. And if there's only one, and there's even only one output with one, then it's unique, which means it is a classical non-fungible token. But this is now really just a special case of this spectrum. So this was our first insight. Non-fungible and fungible are two extremes of what actually is a spectrum. And in the design of our system, we can realize this whole spectrum. I personally don't know of any other blockchain which has embraced this concept. In fact, few applications on Cardano have really made use of this concept. But people are aware of it and developers are playing with it. And so what this means is, I said a token bundle is a collection of tokens, and for each entry in the token, each component of the bundle, a token has two identifying properties. One is what we call the asset policy. This is the smart contract which determines who and under which conditions a new one of these tokens can be created. And the other one is a token name, and it's just a name. And so, for example, to stick with the Fortnite example, there could be a Fortnite policy which determines which Fortnite gadgets can be created, right? And then there's Fortnite gadget 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and they're all under the Fortnite minting policy. Right. But if for Cardano, for example, so this is a typical fungible token, there's one policy, that's the ADA policies, and there's one token name, that's the ADA token name. There's only one of these two. And then there can be millions of these things. And they are all interchangeable because both parts, you can't distinguish them. So they're fungible. And if you mint a non-fungible token, then you have one policy name, and for each token you make a new token name. And then you only allow one of them. And that's the special case of a classic non-fungible token. And then on one hand, we have this spectrum that's novel, but another way in which non-fungible tokens, generally native tokens on Cardano, are very special is you don't need to register them. On Ethereum, if you want to create a new ERC20 token, or you want to create a new, I think it's ERC721, that's a NFT standard, token, then you need to deploy a contract, ERC20 or ERC721 or whichever number it is, a contract on the blockchain, and then you've got a new one. And now you can mint it and you can trade it and so on. But establishing a new contract on Ethereum is expensive. You pay for it. You need a new script account. You need to pay for creating the account. You need to pay for running functions code in this account. But in Cardano, there's no such step. If you want to create tokens, you have to mint them, and that requires to execute the minting policy. But we use cryptographic functionality, cryptographic hashes and devices like this to make sure all the tokens are unique with ever having to register them or there being a global registry. And that means creating a new token type on Cardano is for free. There's no cost associated with it. And no cost is not just good for user, it also means new applications. One of our first use of non-fungible tokens was actually not for the classic non-fungible token represents something somebody wants to pay money for, but to identify contracts. So in order to maybe you have a crowdfunding campaign and I have a crowdfunding campaign, and we both use the same Plutus code.
Right.
How do you know, are you talking about your campaign or mine campaign? Very easy. When we initialize our campaign, we mint an NFT for the campaign, and then you've got an NFT, which by virtue of being an NFT, there can only be one, and I've got one. They're distinguished, and the contract keeps them in the contract output as part of the token bundle. And then it's the token which identifies the contract instance. Is it yours or is it mine? And so by doing this, we can encode ownership or roles that I can do something with a particular smart contract using in de facto NFTs. And that's very interesting, because if ownership or ability to do something with a contract are controlled by an NFT, you can trade them. So now I can trade. I can sell my contract to you. I can securitize a contract. I can say, okay, this contract is governed by these tokens, and now I create shareholders for this contract by distributing tokens to people.
Yeah.
So once you make tokens so cheap that you just create them whenever you need them, new ones, and also NFTs, then you can suddenly create a whole economy of trading of contracts and contract access and governance using NFTs. And that's something which I think is completely unique to Cardano.
Right.
And where we are already seeing that the dApps which are deployed on Cardano, they make use of this functionality because it's super useful.
Yeah.
And it's only possible because creating a new token type on Cardano is for free.
Yeah. That's that's a beautiful, unique purpose of an NFT on Cardano, as I also that, because I see this now in a couple of times also in some white papers that they refer to this as well, as the method by which they want to make their smart contracts executable and transferable. So this is a really powerful way in which NFTs are special on Cardano, that they have this native or description as well about it, right? So I think there was one that Charles Hoskinson mentioned. I don't know if you can dive into a little bit, that it's almost the equivalent security of an NFT on Cardano is the same as that of ADA itself, right? But that's somehow special, that there's not an equivalence to other blockchains which may or may not have that. Do you know what?
Yeah, this is because it's a native asset in the token bundles on an output. ADA is also just one entry in the token bundle. Well, it's somewhat special entry because there's no minting policy for ADA. You can't create any new ADA or anything like that.
Yeah.
But it's identified in the same way, and it's part of token bundles and traded in the same way as every other fungible, non-fungible, or in-between asset.
Yeah.
And in that sense, and it doesn't mean that makes ADA any weaker, it makes all the other assets stronger. It means every single asset, fungible or not, has the same properties in terms of security, tradability, as the main primary currency of the blockchain. And I think that's a very powerful distinctive feature of Cardano.
Right. And if you look at the NFTs, that's where it might go, right? So these one of the powerful ways that it can be looked at is, well, this if-then statement, right? So if an NFT is within a certain wallet, then rights may be ascribed to, that wallet holder. What do you hope to see? Is there any applications that you've come across on the Cardano scape already, or that you see in other industries that might be used by this functionality that Cardano provides?
So I think it's a matter of credentials. So for us, NFTs can be used as a credential, as a permission to do something. In fact, so in computer science terms, sorry, I'm computer scientist.
I'm an economist. So.
we call this capability. So when you look at operating systems, then there are different ways of handling permissions. So you are able to delete a file, create a file, start a process in an operating system. There are different ways of doing this, but there's one class of operating systems which are called capability-based operating systems, and it's kind of the new modern thing to a certain extent. And so what we get is a similar functionality here. We really get the ability to have a capability-based permissioning system on the basis of NFTs. And this is exactly what you refer to as the if-then property, because it's the capability, the presence of this token, which in this conditional if-then is being asserted, the presence of that token.
Yeah.
And I think this makes any permissioning-oriented application a lot simpler on one hand, but on the other hand, I think the superpower is really the tradability. And that's the same why capability-based operating systems, why that is interesting, because there are certain rules then always about how to inherit capabilities or pass capabilities on. And it basically means you make a capability, a permissioning artifact, a first-class citizen, something you can talk about, you can give to somebody, you can receive, you can trade. And this is with classical approaches just not possible. So it's really this tradability that's really the key factor. And there will be markets for that stuff.
Yeah.
And that's new.
Yeah.
We create new markets.
Yeah.
The economist in you should appreciate it. I hope.
I can appreciate it. I hope that it will be a market with net positive externalities. That's the positive. That's the great crucial question.
Yeah.
And I mean, you have, of course, you're deep in the rabbit hole that is Cardano. You know the network. Your son is also, you told me, starting to learn a little bit about crypto. I mean, everybody, it's such a hype, right, thing that also at the same time we need to guard for. But are there NFT projects that or types of NFT projects that you find interesting, or that you and your son look at, apart from what was the game you called Fortnite? Different colored hats.
Different colored hats. Yeah.
I mean, I'm a man of Age of Empires, so Fortnite, of course, is today's age. Give me a Wolololo Monk soundtrack, and then maybe I'll be interested.
Yeah, I find it with my younger son is 13, and I find it interesting that among him and his friends, they actually talk about crypto.
Right.
I mean, doesn't mean like they have any deep expertise or anything, but it is something which is it's a fact of life for them. I mean, we are sitting here talking about adoption and will the banking system ever allow. But this is like the young generation, which is for them, it's just like, well, it's like like a cheese sandwich. It's just one of the things which are at your disposal to do things with, right? So this normality of it was never different, which I find interesting.
I must say, it's the first time that NFTs and cheese sandwiches are put next to each other.
We could have NFTs for cheese sandwiches. Otherwise, well, of course, I'm very interested in your project, the ADA timestamp project, which we've been talking about. For me, it is very much, I'm really curious to see where this is going. On one hand, you see, like in the entertainment and art industry, big names starting to say, okay, now we take this serious as part of the way we distribute, control, monetize, whatever our art, whether that's music or visual arts or anything else. But on the other hand, you have all these grassroots projects, many of them really cool, like people with brilliant ideas and trying to find new ways to create things. And I find it totally impossible to say how this is all going to end. But I think it's really exciting, and I'm really curious to say where it's going. I'm sure. So this concept of we want a representative for something else which can't be forged. I mean, this is fundamental concept, right? And it is a new concept on the internet, because we had for a long time always all the copyright battles in the whatever 80s, 90s, 2000s, where the theme always was, information on the internet can't be freely copied. And now suddenly we have a technology which prevents that, right? Where we have a way to really say something is unique. And this is obviously a new technical quality. And then it's on society to suck up this capability and make something out of it. And how that will look like, I have no idea, but I'm sure it'll be interesting.
That's great. Well, before we wrap up, what does your next 6 months look like? Well, how are you're working with IOG, IOHK, or IOG still? What are there any moments you're looking forward to, or what can you say about your personal next 6 months at Cardano, as it say?
I mean, the two big topics for me are at the moment Hydra and getting Hydra out there, and looking at these other protocol variants and what's possible. And on the other hand, what I mentioned before, in Plutus, we are looking at ways to make it easier to think, reason about, and develop contracts, and in this way also improve the security, in particular around various state machine formalisms. And we have a project with Utrecht University on creating certificates, which at the end of the day maybe also will be NFTs, to which prove that if you write some high-level Plutus code, that the code on the chain is actually a faithful representation of the original code you put into the compiler. So this is called certified compilation. So that's the projects I'm currently involved with, and where we will definitely see things coming out this year.
Brilliant.
And otherwise, I mean, for us, really the exciting thing is we've been working on Plutus for a very long time, while it was a project to be delivered. and it's not so long, still half a year, a bit more, that actually people use it. And at the end of the day, that's the best thing, right?
Yeah.
Actually, the things you've kind of tried to design, think about how could we do this and that, and what are the possibilities, and then seeing other people taking that and doing totally different things with it. And that's great.
Yeah, brilliant. And about that with Plutus, or well, it's a Haskell meetup, right? That you helped organize as well.
So we've got a new Haskell meetup in Utrecht.
Right.
It's called Utrecht Haskell, and for people somewhere here in the region who are interested in Haskell, whether it's on Cardano or outside of Cardano, have a look at meetup.com and
and then
Haskell Utrecht.
And
we've had one meeting so far, which I found it great. Was a lot of interest. And we are trying to set up the next one and want to make this into a regular event for the Haskell community here in the Netherlands.
Brilliant. Manuel, thanks so much for coming.
Thank you very much for having me. It was really interesting conversation. And it's great. Thank you very much.
Cheers. Thanks everyone for watching.
Thank you.